Well, hello folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up the screen. Aitx, going to have an update. And I got called out on Ask Me Anything. And we're going to go over Steve's recent update and cover that as well. Yeah, I felt like Will Smith. Keep my M and F name out. Anyway, let's get into Aitx. All right, so I'm going to pull up several segments of Steve's recent update. There were several things he went over that are pretty interesting, and he's kind of talking about several things. He's talking about sales, but he's also talking about, you know, the raising of money, possibly uplisting in NASDAQ, the possibility of SPACs, which if you remember how SPACs work, he's even talked about SPACs as a possible way of raising money and bringing the company to more people and more investors, which I think makes perfect sense, honestly. It just does. But the reality is, you know, there's a lot of decisions to be made as he goes through that. And he tries to discuss it as best he can, and it's tricky. You can only say so much. As a publicly traded company, you know, he's a CEO, so he's a little bit restricted on that, I believe. But let's talk about a few things. And in this segment, he's talking about the 100+ sales. He's put out some bids to some companies for literally 100+ units, which would be massive. That would really help Aitx, and I know nobody's waiting on that more than he is, and he discusses it here.
But I'm seeing the discussions as being double-digit unit orders, double-digit unit fully paid orders, which is what we want. And I'm seeing multiple of them. I had mentioned a few months ago that we had put out two 100+ unit proposals, and one of them, of course, we're waiting for. Any day, every minute, every time, you know, I get a text from a particular chat group that we have, I'm like, is this it? Like, that's where I'm at on this particular opportunity, waiting for it. And we all are, because it's going to be good. It's going to be good for the company. But if we're putting out regularly multiple double-digit orders. And the beauty of it is that the orders are a reflection of what we've built. Because it's a Romeo, and it's some Scots, and it's a Rosa, and it's this, and it's that, you know? People are buying into the platform that we created. And that makes me super happy. Should make all of us super happy. We're doing the right things. We're building this company the right way. So I think that's big news. More and more double-digit proposals are going out the door. I think we're getting through the sales cycle faster now. And hey, we're trading flat, which, all things considered, is much better than it might otherwise be.
All right, so he's talking about putting out these order sheets or bids, if you will, to various companies. And of course, they just had their big Vegas moment out there with that whole, I mean, everybody that's anybody in the security business was out there. So, and he got in front of all of them. He got in front of everybody, which is great. And he did a good job. You know, I covered that and I watched it. And like I said, he knows his business. I'll give him that for sure. And you can tell he badly wants one of those orders to come in. And I'm rooting hard that happens. That would be great for the company. I really think that would be, you know, something that would spike the stock price. But that's something you can't control. You know, you got companies out there, and this is brand new stuff. Look, you're trying to do unmanned artificial intelligence security. It's not easy. It's just not. You're trying to do something new. And new is hard for people. They fight new because it's not comfortable. And in many respects, you might even be putting people out of a job. So that's another tough one too, because you can say what you want. When you're working with people, you get to know them. And it's hard to say, well, I'm going to bring in this ROSA or this, you know, various security item, whether it's a Wally or an Ava or it's a Romeo, and that might be putting 2 or 3 people out of a job. And that's not easy to do when you've gotten to know them, you know. So that's something they're working against. But over time, that's probably where this is headed. But it's an issue of, you know, the timing of it. You know, you're trying to do something new. Is this the right time for it? I think it probably is, but, you know, time will tell. Also on here, he talked about SPACs. So let's listen to Steve discuss that.
Other things I want to chat about real quick, SPACs. You know, we have a very active investor community, which I love. I love you all, by the way, just so you know. It's huge. I know the last couple weeks I've just been crushed with other work and have not been able to be as responsive as I want, either in Discord or on Twitter and so forth. I'll do my best to get caught up and to make sure that we're reconnected. So sorry for just kind of having to pay attention to some other things, but one of the things I have been paying attention to is SPACs, because we were approached by a SPAC in a very serious way. And I was like, okay, well, if one SPAC's interested in us, I'm going to go talk to another 5, you know, to see what it's all about. So I did a deep dive into SPACs, and I'm going to summarize my feeling on it. No bueno. No bueno. Not good. Not good for the company. Not good for my retail investors that I work so hard for. So I'm just running through weeks of talking to people all day. But in any case, no SPACs.
All right. So there he's talking about SPACs. You know, a lot of companies come public that way. And of course, this company's already public, obviously on the pink sheets. But SPACs, they'd probably want to reduce the share count. I mean, it's almost 5 billion shares, and that's problematic, I would think, for a SPAC. And on top of that, they would probably want a good chunk of this business because it's got a ways to go. So that's, I'm sure, they were blunt about that and said, we understand what a SPAC is. It's just a shell company that has a bunch of money. And they're looking to basically buy into a company that's already existing, that has good products and moving forward. And you've seen that with, I can name a million of them. Good grief, there was so many for a while, it was unbelievable. I think DraftKings was one. Let's see, how many others? Gosh, it was MP Materials. There were so many. Anyway, I think he's gone down that path and decided that that's not good for the company. Like he said, I would say they'd have to give up too much ownership, and then I would think the reduced share count would probably be a problem too for the retail investor. Now let's see what he has to say about the NASDAQ uplisting or possibility thereof.
I keep a close eye on what's happening on NASDAQ. There was a ticker that I mentioned I was following. I didn't tell the ticker, and people have asked me what the ticker is, and I'm like, I can't, because if I say it, then it might, things might happen, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, so I'm following that ticker. They're in this process of doing an uplisting from the OTC to NASDAQ, and, it's not directly comparable to us, and it's not directly comparable to us because we have a legitimate community who supports us, who follows us. And that's really the key to being successful in the OTC, is to have this community, which is why I ask the community, help us build the community.
All right, so there he's talking about the NASDAQ, and that's a tough one because I think part of him wants to uplist the NASDAQ because they could raise a bunch of money and get all kinds of exposure, similar to what Nightscope did, for example. And they raised about $40 million, which that'd be great for Aitx. They really could use that, and they would need it. It's that's the big concern I have about Aitx. They just don't have enough money on the balance sheet to suit me as an investor. And that's why I'm very neutral on Aitx. And look, I'll be the first to tell you, I got bent out of shape over the preferred shares that popped in. And I really wanted to see a lot of money on that balance sheet because I think that's kind of the key to this thing, is that they need time. I think the products will work. They just need time because they're going to lose money for a while. And this is the thing that got me pulled into the Ask Me Anything, and I said that it was taken out of context. I brought up the fact that they had about $4 million on the balance sheet. And understand, I made it very clear that not only were they in the process of raising money through an S1 I believe it was an S1, they've been raising money that way, 90 cents on the dollar to a company, and then they sell them for them. But, they need to raise money. And, of course, they had about $3 million plus that they could continue to sell to reach the 5 billion shares, which would be the outstanding limit. But they could raise that limit if they wanted to. They said they could uplist NASDAQ. They could go the SPAC route. They could get a loan. There's many ways to raise money. And in no way was I trying to say at all, and I think I was pretty clear in the video, I'm not saying they've got 60 days worth of money and then all heck's going to break loose. No, that's not what I was trying to say at all. And if anybody took it other than that, the only thing I can say is this.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Exactly. Look, this company's not going anywhere in 60 days. Like I said, he can raise money very easily and in multiple different ways, and he knows that. He's discussed it many times. But that's really been the issue for me as far as being a long-term investor in this, and that's why I'm neutral. However, this is also a company that could jump, especially if they got one of those big 100 orders. Now let's look at the stock itself. It has been flat for so long, it's unbelievable. I mean, you look back at these dates, this is freaking December. This thing was at 1.6 cents, and it's still at 1.6 cents. I mean, this is, what's that, 1, 2, 3, almost 4 months it's been sitting here flat as a flitter. It's unreal. It really is. And a lot of penny stocks are that way right now. I don't know whether you've just got some, I think you're down to the diamond hands. The paper hands are gone. The wooden hands are gone. All you're left are the diamond hands. And that's what I think Aitx has got. It's got a bunch of really hardcore folks. And that's the community that Steve is talking about. And I commend him significantly for understanding that. I have watched penny stocks that have great communities get kind of crapped on by many different ways. And here, I think he appreciates the community that he has and does not want to piss it off at all. I really feel that because every single update, he talks about the community and how important they are to Aitx. So he understands, he gets it. He gets it as well as any CEO I've ever seen of understanding you don't want to piss off the people that are supporting you. So, he's not dumb at all. He's definitely not dumb by any stretch, and I'm sure he's highly intelligent. That's pretty obvious. But like I say, I continue to be neutral on this stock. I don't own it right now. I've owned it 3 times. I've tried to swing trade it. As you can see, a couple of times here, when it was here and here, and a couple of times I got upside down on it. I was fortunate to come out and break even, but on my long position, I got all bent out of shape about the Series F shares because, like I said, I want to see some money on that balance sheet, not just $4 million. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but for a company that's, going to burn through some money, they need more than that. I'd like to see them with like 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, somewhat similar to what I've seen with Nightscope. And then I'd be much more comfortable being long-term on this stock because I really like the products. I like the total addressable market that is involved with this because literally any business could be a customer. I can't think of any business on the planet that couldn't use security along these lines, and it's very inexpensive compared to having a human being do this. And with the inflation the way it's at and payroll inflation, it's probably a really good company long term. Hopefully they become one of the winners. Time will tell, that's for sure. All right, and let's also look and see where they're at. They're at 4.733 billion shares, so they still have about 267 million they could sell. And like I said, I would expect them to do that. That would make sense. That would get them, over $3 million, and that would be helpful to them. And let's understand something. This is an OTC stock. Most every single one of them are losing money. That's the nature of the beast. If you're going to invest in a penny stock, they're probably losing money. The point of it is to try to find a company that you think has a good future, that can raise enough money to get through the tough times, and then come out on the other end, and you're trying to find a unicorn or something close to it. And I don't know whether or not this will be one or not. Time will tell. Every OTC stock has that potential, but doesn't mean they will be. So hopefully, like I said, I'm rooting for this company, but let's understand, look, all OTC stocks need money. They need to raise money. Nightscope just did. I'd like to see Aitx raise some money through whatever various avenues they choose. I think Steve will try to keep the community very much as protected as possible during the raising of money. He hates dilution, but he's had to do it. And like I said, he's going to have to continue to do that on some level and get that money built up so that he has the time and the company has the time to become a winner. And hopefully that'll happen. All right, folks, and that's Aitx today. I just wanted to cover it and kind of go over the update that Steve just had and talk about that a little bit. And he asked me anything where I got called out. But anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover Aitx. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I'd certainly appreciate it. And I hope you did like the content. And we'll see you next time on Mr. Frugal Investor.